Révélez-vous, Picards et bourguignons, et trouvez la manière d'avouer des bons bastons, car vieci la printemps, et aussi les leçons, pior à la guerre, donnes des horions, donnes des horions. Tel parle de la guerre, qui ne se passion ceste, je vous jure mon ami, que est en pied tout fait, et que mentom hiroms del gentil compagnon, y ont laissé la vuelta, robe chaperon, et robe chaperon. Oui, c'est donc l'argèche, il est en paille espace, il est en basse Flandre avec ses hippicases, qui nous terjons d'après, qui élève les mains, il entre bourguignon pour la lui conquisti, pour la lui conquisti. Adieu, adieu, salon, salon, j'ai bessention, et la vele de bonne, et la loi les bons vins sont, les peccats les boys, les flamands les parents, queer pastas les panté, un bien betosseront, ou bien betosseront. Howdy, everybody. Welcome to the official episode. Enough of crashing out. Time to crash in, baby. Let's go. Let's go. Looking at my English friend playing Claire Obscure 33 with the SpongeBob face. You like the French, don't ya? Don't ya? The French look like the prettiest Italians mixed with the prettiest English. The Dutch look like the ugliest French mixed with the ugliest Germans. I don't say that. What? Who said that? Sorry, Netherchuds. I don't make the rules. So, let's get into it. Martinism was a huge early Christian heresy. It was a big division leading up to the Great Schism between East and West Catholics. And it's wild because I never heard about it studying Orthodoxy. But Martinism is the belief pushed by Byzantine emperors that Jesus had only one nature as opposed to three. Popes died over this. It was a huge thing, leading to the consolidation of the Papal States to the Western Roman Empire, and thus, Orthodoxy was born. No hate on my Orthodox bros, I love you guys. You're some of the closest to the source that I found in the modern world, so if you're Orthodox and you're listening to this, that's just a little bit of history. Feel free to look it up on your own and read into it. I'm not judging you. I'm not judging you. I think it's Byzantium's fault, not the Orthodox faith's fault, okay? Like, just today, well, not today, but just in this era, the Patriarch of Constantinople, who is fine living in Turkey and being Turkish and having a Turkish citizenship, and, you know, role-playing, LARPing in what is now Istanbul, like Constantinople never fell, because of various Venetian and Ottoman trickery. You know, that's them, okay? And Byzantium doesn't really feel like a real empire. As soon as the Roman Empire was cleaved in twain, it ceased to be one nor two empires. The Ottomans, on the other hand, a real empire. After they consolidated Egypt in 1517, you could say that's a real empire right there. That is beyond the borders of the Eastern Roman Empire. You're talking like Persia-level power structure, and not disjointed and broken apart like, we're the true Illyrians. Well, Byzantium's technically Phoenician. You know, you got these people in Egypt and Arabia that are just like, dude, we're not eating any of the stuff you're serving. But yeah, I'm serious. Byzantium does not feel in my heart like it was ever really a real empire. And I know there's a lot of Bulgarian stuff in there. And I would say, and I'm not joking about this, the Bulgarians actually have a claim to the crown of Byzantium. They legitimately do. And they were subverted. There was trickery. There was backstabbing. There was lies. and they got cheated out of their proper claim to the crown, and that's exactly why you got people like Basil the Bulgar Slayer, who's just there, you know, making sure that the two halves don't ever mend again. And this constant political chicanery of the Byzantium led to their just pathetic, embarrassing collapse. What was it, 1450? Something around there, sometime around there. Belgium was essentially created with the same ideals as Germans when they espoused Aryan anthroposophy, as is Israel. Celts lived there once, so carve it out of the miscegenated Low Countries, the Netherlands. And frankly, who am I to judge? It's one of the richest, most peaceful, and most beautiful parts of Europe now, and that's one of the most beautiful parts of the world, so who am I to judge? I know Brussels politics is some of the worst, so don't get it twisted. I'm just kind of, you know, kicking around that idea. This is what we're going to get more into, at least when I'm up. Sometimes I'm just barely writing down crappy notes and squeaking through a short episode. Last episode, I'm not talking about the anti-Zionist special. I think I did pretty good. Last episode, Brown to Obama, really bad. I apologize. Was still recovering. Now I got a lot of my stuff that I needed to get done. I'm doing a whole lot better, okay? So thanks for sticking in there. Appreciate the real ones and the fake ones too. You're welcome to come along for the ride. If you charge your fill enough, you can see the ley lines that point towards Agarthia in the Hollowed Earth. The Hollowed Earth. I was cracking up on the end. I could have killed it. Did you know that Italians' noses are so sharp sometimes that oftentimes their nostrils are triangular? Isn't that fascinating? Like, legitimately triangular. I noticed this with Terry Davis. His nostrils were triangular. I have never in my life seen a Jew whose nostrils were triangular, but Italians have those super sharp. They're like an aquiline nose, which is a beak-shaped nose, which is crazy because Aquileia is, you know, part of Venice, basically. That had been, like, withered in the desiccation chamber and turned into, like, a pure spear of focus. And what's fascinating is the Celtic noses have very large nostrils, whereas the Semitic noses have huge noses, but like regular or small size nostrils. I found that fascinating. I know, nose studies, right? Right? We come here for nose studies, right? You know, an organized minority will always be more powerful than a disrupted majority, regardless of race. So keep that in mind. I think the most moral central Asian belief system is the Sikhs of Punjab in northwestern India. More moral than the Muslims, more moral than the Hindus, really easy to get along with and blend into our high morality Western society without the desire to change it like the prior mentioned religions have. One of the reasons why you got to keep your racism high fidelity and stay up on your studies. And, you know, one of these many reasons, after 9/11, people were running drive-bys on Sikhs who would absolutely 100%, and probably did, I was young, take an active stance against Al-Qaeda. They would draw their knife and draw blood if they saw Al-Qaeda, if they were on that plane, you know what I'm saying? But because of the skin-deep aesthetics and Fox News, they were killed and harassed and harangued. It's a damn shame. While we're on the topic of Fox News, whenever I hear someone use the term illegal as the sole qualifier or honorific title, dishonorific if you will, for an immigrant, I always see hatred in their eyes. And I'm not trying to be like bleeding heart. I legitimately, every single time I hear that phrase and somebody's biting the ends off of the word, I see immense hatred in their eyes. Not a grim indifference or a sadness, but hatred. Every single time. First off, Some of the guys you're talking about are Western cultured Christians, and you're lumping them in with hardcore drug dealing criminals and murderers. Second off, you're not handling this with the grim indifference of a prosecutor or a surgeon. You're banging your knife and fork on the table and demanding the blood of the unclean. The only person I've ever seen actively, like I'll just straight up say it, curb stomp a transgender person who is being incredibly annoying and harassing people outside of a establishment was a Hispanic guy. So if that point upsets you, the point wasn't for you, all right? But if you went, let that sink in. It's cold outside. Let that sink in. No, it's not really cold outside. Saw an ICE raid on a Colorado nightclub, and it busted like 150 people. Many of them were Hell's Angels. You know those pussies that have been selling drugs for the government and raping teenage girls since the 70s? I genuinely and unironically hope they get their due process and are hit with a full letter of the law. Sorry, I went Alex Jones for a second. I'm pretty serious about this, though. I said I hope Trump uses this anti-criminal push to crack down on genuine crime. Nothing is worse than a president who makes deals with criminals while ruling law-abiding citizens with an iron fist. Pick one. Pick one. We've been ruled by criminal sympathizers since H.W. Bush and Clinton. Pick one. And I think Trump genuinely has picked at least some subsection of non-criminal Americans. Whether they're dual citizens or not, it still helps. Still a move towards the right direction. Same with the economy. We gotta uncouple, baby. We gotta uncouple. I'm sorry if it's scaring some people. Like, I'm not saying learn to farm now. Genuinely, talk to people. Try to figure out how you can farm some stuff. You can go from supplementing 5% of your yearly food intake with stuff that you grow to 25% if you get really down on pickling and canning and meal prep and preserving. Like, you really can bite into either a lack of the stuff that you like on the shelves or a rise in cost. You can bite into that. And then the bigger you grow, the more you create something that is not something that's easily point a gun at somebody and take it away from them. Or you have something that gives back every single year. You're genuinely valuable. No amount of bank account stuff that can go like that in a second is worth that. It is genuinely valuable. So please get into farming. Please look into the seeds at your local Home Depot or your local Lowe's and get some manure and mend some topsoil with it and, make some pots and experiment with pots because they're basically the easiest thing. And once you get down on pots, once you have lots of stuff in your pots, make some raised beds. And once you get raised beds down, then you can start putting effort into amending entire plots in your whatever space you have. If you have pots, you can do it in an apartment building. If you have raised beds, you can do it with a very small amount of property. Please get into it. I strongly suggest this. I really, from the bottom of my heart, strongly suggest this. Also, I really don't worry about Indians miscegenating us here in America. They might think that that's what they're doing, but our women hate culturally Indian men. Despise them. And if they're Americanized, then it's not really an issue, in my opinion. Sorry if that freaks some of you out. But if they're Americanized and they're Christian, or, as a younger guy, like Sagar Enjeti's an atheist, I still like him. As long as they're Western cultured, which means that they're trying to attain to, a very advanced morality in the timeline. Judaism was an advanced morality for 3,000 years ago. But Christianity is an incredibly advanced morality system, probably the single most advanced moral system of all time, because we did peak and then we fell way back down through constant warfare, which for a long period of time you had less war than ever before in history. Really, if you have somebody with the culture that was influenced by Christianity, they can be atheist and they'll still be okay. That's my firmly held belief. I'm not pro-immigration, you know, but the people who scream about race mixing and stuff like that, you better be talking about cars because, like, that's just stupid. Speaking of which, we're a sport in the country. Definitely NASCAR. F1 is interesting. I like seeing those 1,000+ horsepower cars. I like seeing them go, that's fun. NASCAR is not fun. First and foremost, it's like they took the most boring part of football, it turns it into a series of exercise reps instead of a single set of genuinely impressive talents on display. And unlike baseball, it manages to also turn it into a collective motion instead of the singular exhibitionism of baseball, which is, in my opinion, to do that is incredibly boring. Take synchronized swimming. Add stochastic pauses. You've got American football. But hey, at least there you're dealing with genuine talent. NASCAR is that collective synchronized swim devoid of any style, artistic merit, or exhibition of genuine talent. That and add complete immersion into ear-damaging noise and toxic hydrocarbon fumes. The people camping in the center of the field are the most poignant example of the sort of people attracted to it. Completely numb to their senses, reveling in vibration for its own sake, throwing money into a fire, and huffing fumes and getting a Pavlovian reaction reminiscent of a dog going on a road trip. I've been chewing on why Irish people and Jewish people are so phrenologically similar. And there's no evidence of a lost tribe or colony of Phoenicia in Ireland, in Hibernia. That's where the name hibernate came from, by the way. It was the name that the Romans called Ireland that was actually a misinterpretation of its actual name at the time, Ivernia. And you got Albion and Ivernia as like, these are the places that are snow stark white, and it got very light-skinned people that burn very easily in the sun. Thankfully, it rained here recently. Oh, I feel so much better now that it rained a little bit. Oh. But back to the Irish people and the Jewish people. It seems that the Ogaden and the Hebrews have a similar ethnogenetic radiance, likely one influenced and ensconced heavily by ecological disaster, which leads to societal disaster, and from the transmission between the Ice Age and the Anthropocene. The preceding floods and times of conflict and strife are what shaped that particular timeline of humans. But the Irish spec'd hard into altruism, whereas the Hebrews spec'd into pragmatic parasitism and an autistic aversion towards transformation. St. Patrick and the following evangelization of Ireland was one of the most peaceful parts of early Christian history, which is very bloody. And very, lots of sacrifice in early Christian history. Self-sacrifice. That's what really set it apart from a lot of the previous philosophical movements. And it led to Ireland being the de facto capital of Christianity in the early medieval age. Rome being captured by the Lombards at the time, and though they are the de jure capital, if you check the scoreboard, Ireland was the place. Like, appealing to expertise is a de facto fallacy, but an ironclad de jure legal argument, right? That's exactly what I was trying to say a couple episodes ago when I said, experts can be brought in to court, but out on the streets, it's just like, well, it just depends. What have you done for me lately, essentially? That's de facto versus de jure. De jure, that's the letter of the law. De facto, that's the spirit of the law, baby. There you go. The martyrdoms of Britain would come much later during the Viking invasions. This is well confirmed. There's a very smooth transition between Celtic paganism and, or Druidism, but that's more of a neo-paganism. Celtic paganism and Christianity. Very smooth transition. And, like, this is well studied. This isn't just an opinion. Where the Vikings found an inlet or a coastal plain, they scrambled for it, and their distinctly Norse pagan religion valued violence above peace. It's just what it did. They really loved it, and they really enjoyed it. Go watch Vinland Saga if you want to find out a little bit more about the mentality of these people. There's no hate, no hate towards our Icelandic watchers out there. By the by, can we see one Israeli politician that isn't smirking so hard it's twisting the skin on their face? Remember how your mom used to tell you not to make faces because it would get stuck like that? The smirk is truly the ape of the smile. The smile is a pure font of beauty. The smirk is a coward's way of projecting false confidence. And if your daddy never told you, wipe that stupid looking smirk off your face. For real. I think it's pretty clear that the people propagating biker gang culture on the right and Antifa culture on the left are Zionists. Like, you probably know exactly what I'm talking about if you've ever actually, like, looked hard at either one of these people, why they're doing it, what they're attached to, and ultimately how they act in the long run as opposed to the things that they say stochastically. Same as the music industry is as Jewish as it ever was black, and it's clear as day, currently, especially with the contraction around Chicago and Miami, that the mafia was never Italian, but produced and managed by New York Jewish finance, the same as many, many gangs throughout the country. That the people loudest in championing violence as a political ideology are Zionist infiltrators setting up civil conflict in foreign nations like our own. No joke. When you remember that Futurama had a Fry becomes his own grandfather subplot, the distinctly Freudian Jewish writing comes into focus. By the way, I'm on AZS Part 3 now. I'm going to go chronologically into Freud and modern psychology and art. I'm not going to really set a time limit on that because I need to make sure that my brain is open for any good ideas that come along the way, but I'll try to get it to you at a reasonable time. I'm really concerned with environmental conservation. Snicker and sneer if you want, but I'm not foolish enough to think that I can and should fit the entire buffet in my mouth of nature while taking a dump on the hot trays. And in my observation, I've come to believe that it's imperative that two countries in the Western Hemisphere maintain environmental proclivities. That's Canada and Brazil. The way things are going, they will be. As long as those two can keep it up, we shouldn't suffer biblical level disasters when we shit where we eat. Alright, Joe. It's a good episode for today. Hope everyone has a great one, is having a great week. Cheers.